One of
Good,
the things that
good.
we always need to know is more about that title process in the real estate process. And a lot of times it feels like it's the mysterious part of the process. So, first of all, I just want to start with the basics. A lot of people don't understand, what does a title agency do? Why is it important to work with a title agency that focuses on the small details? But this is just a basic. What is title insurance? Let's talk about those two
Sure.
things.
Welcome to the Jennifer J. Hammond Podcast. Jennifer is a licensed realtor, educator, speaker, and best-selling author. Jennifer's goal is to help you find your yay in every day.
Hello. This is Jennifer J. Hammond. I'm so excited. I'm here with Anthony Steele with Marlin Title. So welcome to the show, Anthony.
Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm so excited to have you.
Good,
One of the things
good.
that we always need to know is more about that title process. In the real estate process, a lot of times it feels like it's the mysterious part of the process. So first of all, I just want to start with the basics. A lot of people don't understand, what does a title agency do? Why is it important to work with a title agency that focuses on the small details? But this is just a basic. What is title insurance? Let's talk about those two
Sure,
things.
sure. Title insurance, you're right. It's one of those unknown things that happens when you buy real estate and sell real estate. But title insurance protects both the real estate owner and lenders against losses that they may experience due to legal, defects in the title itself. That's basically making sure that the property is transferred in the correct manner from the seller to the buyer. So that's where we fit in that space, making sure that the property is transferred legally.
Well, it's really important because with a title agency that is smaller and that really focuses on those small details, you were talking about title insurance, and it's so important. Why is it? I guess should we say, why is it important to focus on those small details?
It's easy to just go out there and just make it happen. We've got some experience and things that we've worked on in the past. One, for example, is we recently did a refinancing of a large hotel, and that was a $5 million transaction. And when the original owners that constructed the hotel, actually 25 years ago, had actually constructed the hotel, they had an agreement with the municipality, and that agreement was simply they were to build, once the parcel north of them was developed into residential, they would have to build a concrete block wall from corner to corner and so high. And so when they entered into this agreement, they subsequently, years later, sold the hotel to the new owner. Well, the new owner, unbeknownst to them, went and got title insurance, but the title agent that they used did not alert them to the fact that this agreement was still outstanding. And so what ended up happening was, when they came forward to refinance with us, we made them aware that this wasn't at least outstanding and how we should resolve this. And so when I brought it to their attention, they weren't aware of it, and quite frankly was very concerned, because now they knew they had an agreement to build a concrete block wall across the entire perimeter. That being said, I said, what I'll do is simply this. I will call the municipality and ask them, in the past quarter century, 25 years, has there been any changes to your planning and zoning requirements? And lo and behold, after we spoke, they said, absolutely. So instead of building that concrete block wall, all they had to do was plant a couple of trees, and it resolved the requirement for that agreement. And that, to me, is about why we do and what makes us special as a title agency. We're always looking to make sure everything is taken care of.
And that's really important, because not even just a real estate owner when you're buying property, but also when you're someone who's a real estate investor, this is really important for real estate investors, because it impacts the value, and I want to say also the future value of your property, right?
That is absolutely correct. All those things come into play at some point in time, whether you're a buyer or a seller. If those things aren't taken care of, it will have an impact on the future value of that property.
And I think it's so important that, again, you have not only a competent title agency, but also an agency who really goes that extra mile. And as you said, really looks at the small details. So speaking of small details, let's talk about a title exception. Will you explain what is a title exception and why this can become, it can be a blessing or a curse, right?
Well, and going back to my comments about the hotel, when the second owner acquired that property, the agreement was placed as an exception to policy, meaning that if ever a claim was to come forward against the insurance policy, that item would not be covered by the insurance policy. So that's what an exception is. It really just removes it from the policy, and you now cannot put forth a claim if that specific issue occurs.
And this can, again, as I said before, these are things that can really impact the value and the future value of the property. So you might even think it was worth, say we use $1 million just for an easy round number, it was worth $1 million, but that exception could do one of things. So number one, it might not be worth that much today, but it's also going to impact the future value of things that you can do with it, right?
That's correct. Again, this second owner didn't realize this condition stood out there. And if it wasn't for us working with them and working with the municipality, those are the things that can happen if you're not paying attention. Yes.
Very, very important to understand that. So let's also talk about absentee owners and unimproved land.
Yes, that is believe it or not, that's become a real big issue for us right now. And with our underwriters, what they're basically saying is know who your landowners are. What's happening is there are people that, if there's some vacant land and it's been sitting for years and no one's touched it or have done anything with it, what ends up happening, someone can easily come in a fraudulent manner and kind of try to take that ownership of that property and sell it in a transaction. Our job and what the underwriters are asking us is to go ahead and make sure that you know who your landowners are, who the proper owners of the property, would be. Identify them, get identification, but really importantly, rely upon the realtor and other professionals that know these individuals that own that particular piece of land. And so that's the big deal right now in our world, is making sure that unimproved land, the proper owner is identified so that we can transfer the property properly.
And you talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but I love to differentiate a little bit. As a real estate agent, so often we are the ones who are asked by our clients to differentiate between the difference between owner's title insurance and lender's title insurance. And these often get confused and the water gets very muddy. And of course, if you wait till the settlement day, the closing day, when everybody's signing and there's a whole lot of emotions going on because they feel like, oh my gosh, how much money am I spending? And all these loan documents, oh my gosh, what am I signing? My firstborn, my dog, what am I signing away? So explain the difference between owner's title insurance and lender's title insurance.
Absolutely. They're two different ones. It's the same policy, correction. It is two separate policies, but the same transaction. And one protects the owner, the purchaser of the property, that's the owner's title insurance policy, and the lender's title insurance policy protects the lender if, in fact, there is financing that is taking place as well. So one protects the lender, the other one protects the owner or the buyer of that property.
But it can all be purchased at the same time. So you should definitely ask questions and understand those nuances and those differences before you make a decision on that. The lender will usually require it, right?
Yes, that is almost a definite requirement by most lenders that you're going to have, because they want to make sure that the property they are going to finance is actually the property that you're buying. And so they want to make sure. So the lender is always going to require that for their financing.
And then the owner's insurance, it's not required, right?
It's not required, but it's recommended. And I will tell you that if, again, the lender's policy protects the lender, the owner's policy protects the buyer. And so if you never got an owner's policy, but you had a lender's policy and something happens, the lender gets taken care of, not the owner. So it is recommended, strongly recommended, to make sure you have it because the cost is reasonably affordable.
Exactly. And I wanted to use just one more example before we run off of here. So title insurance, another like reason why it would be a good thing is possibly like an encroachment from a neighbor. Could you talk a little bit about how could title insurance be a benefit for if you have a problem with one of the neighbors' properties encroaching onto yours?
Sure. Quite frankly, over the years, I've learned that in Florida, there is a lot of encroachment that occurs on properties. And what happens is, Florida has an endorsement. What is an endorsement? An endorsement is an add-on to the policy. And it's like almost having jewelry added onto your personal homeowner's policy. But it's an add-on that goes with the policy. And Florida Form 9, which covers property boundary lines and property lines, does give protection against those encroachments by your neighbors or anyone that may have taken over your space and not have made it known to you. And so, yes, that's important to have that on your policy, but that goes along with it goes to the lender's policy as well as it can go to the owner's policy as well.
So title insurance is really something you would recommend for everyone to get, right?
Well, as I said, as we spoke about in the past or recently, the lenders is going to require it. So, but I do recommend, again, owner's policy because it makes sense. It protects the buyer of the property. And in the state of Florida, quite frankly, whoever selects title has to pay for the owner's title policy.
So go ahead. Let's tell people how can they get in touch with you, with Marlin Title, your website, phone number, anything you would like to share.
Sure. Our website is marlintitle.com. It's very simple, marlintitle.com. And our email address, or my email address, is anthony@marlintitle.com. And our telephone number is area code 727-791-7000.
Perfect. And then, as you know, I always like to make sure we put more yays in the day. So I'm going to ask you to lift your voice and say yay with me, okay?
Sounds good.
Perfect. 3, 2, 1. Yay!
Hi, I'm Jack Canfield. You may know me as the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And if you want more help in getting from where you are to where you want to be, I want to encourage you to listen to the Jennifer Hammond Show